The 5 worst events between Iran and the United States that led to war in 2026. Before 1979, the United States and Iran were close allies. However, after the 1979 revolution, the U.S. suddenly became the Great Satan in the eyes of Iran's new leadership. Later, in 2002, U.S. President George W. Bush officially labeled Iran as part of the axis of evil. Before the large-scale war that shocked the world in 2026, relations between the United States and Iran had gone through many ups and downs, with numerous serious incidents occurring along the way. In this video, we will highlight 5 of the most significant and worst events in U.S.-Iran relations before the outbreak of the current war. Let's take a closer look at what these 5 events are. 1. The 1953 coup in Iran, backed by the CIA. Iran, a country rich in oil, was largely controlled by British oil companies until 1951. However, things changed dramatically when a strong nationalist leader, Mohammad Mossadegh, became prime minister. He attempted to nationalize Iran's oil industry to benefit the country rather than foreign powers. This move angered Britain, which wanted to remove him from power but lacked the capability to do so alone. As a result, Britain sought help from the United States, led at the time by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. The CIA played a major role in orchestrating the coup. The first attempt failed, forcing the Shah of Iran to flee the country due to widespread protests. However, a second attempt succeeded. The Shah returned with even greater power and Mossadegh was removed from office. In 1954, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi granted 40% of Iran's oil profits to American, British, and French companies for 25 years. In return, President Eisenhower introduced the Atoms for Peace program, providing Iran with nuclear technology for civilian development. At the time, the Shah was considered one of the United States' most important allies during the Cold War. 2. The 1979 Iranian Revolution. Initially, the Shah enjoyed strong support from the Iranian people. However, after 2 decades in power, his popularity declined due to authoritarian rule, economic inequality, and repression by the secret police, SAVAK. Although his government introduced modernization reforms, such as granting women the right to vote and allowing them to appear in public without wearing a hijab, these changes angered religious leaders, including Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. Opponents viewed the Shah as a puppet of the United States. In 1979, mass protests erupted across major cities. The Shah fled to the United States for cancer treatment. At the same time, Ayatollah Khomeini returned to Iran and established a new regime, the Islamic Republic of Iran. The new leadership rejected Western-style modernization and labeled the United States as the Great Satan. 3. The Iran hostage crisis, 1979 to 1981. On November 4, 1979, a group of Iranian students stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and took 52 Americans hostage. The students, who supported the revolution, demanded that the United States extradite the Shah back to Iran for trial. However, President Jimmy Carter refused. Instead, the U.S. imposed sanctions on Iranian oil. The 52 American hostages were held for 444 days. This crisis severely damaged Carter's chances of re-election in 1980. It also demonstrated Iran's willingness to stand up against a global superpower like the United States. 4. The downing of an Iranian passenger plane in 1988. Relations between the U.S. and Iran were at their worst during the 1980s. In 1983, 2 truck bombs killed 241 U.S. troops at a military base in Beirut, Lebanon. The U.S. blamed Hezbollah, a militant group backed by Iran. President Ronald Reagan labeled Iran a state sponsor of terrorism and imposed stricter sanctions. However, the U.S. later secretly negotiated with Iran in what became known as the Iran-Contra affair, trading arms for the release of American hostages held by Hezbollah. In 1988, tensions escalated further after a U.S. Navy ship was damaged by an Iranian mine in the Persian Gulf. In retaliation, the U.S. launched Operation Praying Mantis, destroying several Iranian naval forces. Tragically, in July 1988, the U.S. military mistakenly shot down Iran Air Flight 655, a civilian passenger plane traveling from Tehran to Dubai. All 290 people on board were killed. 5. Iran labeled as part of the axis of evil in 2002. During the 1990s, the United States imposed heavy sanctions on Iran to weaken its government and prevent it from developing nuclear weapons. In 1995, President Bill Clinton enforced a full oil embargo and banned arms sales to Iran. After the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks by Al-Qaeda, Iran secretly cooperated with the U.S. against Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. Despite this, the United States rejected Iran and continued to view it as a threat. In 2002, President George W. Bush officially labeled Iran, Iraq, and North Korea as the axis of evil. This declaration deeply angered Iran, which felt betrayed despite its willingness to cooperate. In addition to these events, many other incidents further worsened U.S.-Iran relations, eventually leading to war. For example, the U.S. assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in 2020 and attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities in 2025 further escalated tensions. Thank you for watching, and see you again in the next video.